Welcome back to the channel, guys. So in this video, I'm going to be comparing two more of Olight's popular, we'll call these full-size lights today. On one side, we have the Seeker 2 Pro, and on the other is the M2R Pro Warrior. On my last comparison video, I compared the Seeker 2 Pro to the Warrior Turbo, and if you haven't seen that video, check it out. That's kind of comparing as far as this sized flashlight by Olight, their longest throwing flashlight versus their highest output flood flashlight being the Seeker 2 Pro. In that video, I also mentioned saying I kind of wish there was a flashlight that was somewhere in the middle. Well, this is going to be the one right here, the M2R Pro, and it actually has a lot of features that are pretty cool, and we'll talk about them today. Let's kind of go over some of the stats of these two lights. The Seeker 2 Pro, again, it's a very floody light. You have the 3 reflectors on the top, totaling about 3,200 lumens, 250 meter beam distance. And of course, you've got multiple settings on this. Cool thing about this light, again, you've got your battery indicator on the right side, as well as your light output on the left. As I bump up, as you can see, that bumps up as well. Pretty handy. I wish that Olight would use this feature or this function with more of their lights. But again, I appreciate it being on the Seeker 2, and that's probably my favorite feature of this light. Obviously, you've got some nice rubberized grip. This light does not have a tail switch. It just has the part to charge it, the charging port right there. It's magnetic, not strong enough to hold it up sideways though. As far as the Warrior 2 Pro, you have a slightly longer beam distance. This one will throw light about 300 meters. It's a little bit narrower than the Seeker. It also comes with a clip, so if you want to clip it to your pocket, clip it to your belt. You know, as far as like if you're looking for a duty light, this would be a great option, not only because it is a little bit slimmer. It also has the tail switch on the back. We'll talk about that here in a minute. And also the switch on the front, or on the side of it, excuse me. This switch also will indicate your battery level by lighting up green, yellow, and then red when a battery gets low. Pretty handy little function there. A little bit simpler than the Seeker 2 Pro, but again, both of these will give you an idea of where your battery level is at. Going back to the lumens on this one, I believe it's 1800 lumens. On its highest setting at the 1800 lumens mode, this one, the M2R Warrior, will give you 4.5 minute runtime, whereas the Seeker 2 Pro is pretty low. It's maybe 1.5 minutes or so at that highest setting, which again is a ton of light, but if you're needing that light for a lot, you know, to be used a lot, then you may not get quite as much runtime on that setting. If you need more of a throw, your M2R Pro is the way to go. Let's talk about the tail switch. So there's different ways you can configure this to a tactical or standard. I won't go into all that on this video. When you first get the light, a soft press will bring it into the 250 lumen mode, which has just over 100 meters of beam distance. And you get a pretty absurd amount of runtime on that. I want to say it's like 40 hours at this light level, which is pretty incredible. If you click it all the way down, then you go straight to your highest setting. So again, for a shift or patrol type work, when you need that highest setting easily accessed from the back, this really is the way to go if you're going to carry one of these on duty, especially if you're working as a police officer. This will be the light for you, just because you do have access to either one of those two modes instantaneously. One thing about this though, the issue that I had with the tail switch, it has this kind of strange function where if you hold it down for a second and then you let go, the light turns off as well, but you have to click it really quickly to get it to stay on. I've noticed a lot of times I'm not trying to access that instant on, instant off feature, and I have a hard time getting it to stay on because you have to click it really quickly. I kind of wish there was a little bit more of a delay before that function would come on. I guess you just have to mess with it to get used to it. It can be frustrating at times. The longer I've had it, the quicker, the easier it's gotten for me, but that was kind of a bit of frustration for me when I first got this light, was that it would keep turning off every time I wanted to turn it on. It's only maybe like a half a second for it to activate the instant off feature when you let go of the tail cap. Anyways, if you do buy this light, that'll make more sense to you, because right now it's probably not making a ton of sense. Anyways, let's go outside and I'll show you guys some of the beam shots with this thing. Before we go outside, there's a couple of more things that I forgot to mention earlier in this review. That would be the color temperature of these two lights. The M2R Pro Warrior actually has a much warmer tone than the Seeker. The Seeker is more similar to all of the other Olight flashlights out there, with the exception of the O bulb, which I have here. If you have an O bulb, then you know that this is a much warmer tone light. A lot of people like to use these as night lights because they don't destroy your night vision. The M2R is great for saving your night vision. So if you do, if you are concerned about having a really bright flashlight and turning it on and then not being able to see anything for the next few minutes, again, if you're doing police work specifically, or any type of work that you're concerned about saving your night vision, the M2R will make a considerable difference in helping you out in that aspect. The other thing is, of course, the beveled edge on the end of this. It's actually really freaking sharp. And if you need to use this as a weapon, this would tear skin up very easily. The Seeker claims to have like a beveled edge or something, but it's rounded out. That's not going to do anything to anybody. This is not a defense tool whatsoever. This one definitely is. Another benefit of the warmer light temperature, it makes things easier to see as far as true colors. If you're trying to see, for example, let's say you're wanting to look at addresses on the street, if you're driving down the road, if you're delivering or whatever the case is, it's actually a lot easier to use the M2R Pro because, one, it's got a very focused beam, and with the warmer temperature, it makes it easier to read letters and numbers and things that are written down. Again, that's something that you would just have to see in person to understand, but hopefully you'll kind of get an idea for that once we take these outside. So we'll do that now. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with the Seeker 2 Pro. This will be on the second setting as far as brightness levels go. I'll kind of show you guys the floodiness of this light here. It actually appears to be more light on the camera than what I'm actually seeing in real life. It's picking up a lot of the light, but as you can see, this is very floody. One other thing that I'll mention, because I just struggled with this just now, is finding the button on the Seeker 2 on the side of it. It can be hard because it's not always obvious where it's at, and especially if you have gloves on, there's a pretty good chance it'll take you several seconds to figure out where that button's at to get the light turned on. So again, this is the Seeker on the second setting, and I'm going to compare that to the Warrior, the M2R Warrior on the, here we go. This is the half press. So there you go. This is the 250 lumen, 110 meter beam distance. It is a much warmer light, the spotty area in the middle is actually pretty wide. And it shines a decent distance. I actually prefer this for most circumstances to the Seeker. I'm going to go ahead and give this a full click now. And there's a water tower exactly 200 meters from me. It's about 250 meters to the top. You can kind of see it. I'll bring the light down onto it. Lights it up pretty good over there. I'm trying not to make my neighbors too angry. But again, this is the highest setting on the M2R Pro. It is a warmer light. Hopefully that'll be more clear when I compare the two at the same time. All right, now that you've seen the highest setting of the M2R Pro, this is the highest setting of the Seeker. Just tons and tons of light all over. The Seeker's a really good around the house backyard light. I would not recommend it at all for any type of duty light, just mainly because of the button. There's not a spot for extremely long distances. I guess it's with the amount of light that it has, it'll still get your distance there, but it has to shift down pretty quickly just due to the amount of lumens and the amount of heat that it puts out. Now that I've got, here, I'll bump this down. I'm gonna see if you can see the difference in the color temperatures of these lights. All right here, let's see if I can finagle this with two hands. All right, so on the left is the Seeker, on the right's the M2R Pro. And this is probably the best way to compare the two lights as far as the color temperature goes. Very, very obvious here in these two lights. Again, they're both good lights. They both have their purpose. For a tactical light, I would take the M2R Pro. For light around the house, camping, that kind of thing, the Seeker for sure. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed it and learned a few things. If you liked the video, subscribe, and I'll do some more comparison videos. I plan on doing the O-bulb versus the O-bulb MC next. Thanks, guys.